All right. Sorry for the little bit of delay. We're going to bring this Board of Finance meeting of June 18th, 2025 to order. I am Michael Anderson, Chair. I got Dan Smith, Vice Chair, Gary Nino, Carl Johnston, and Lou Gingerella. So we do have a quorum tonight, which is nice. And we're going to go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda 3, we have public comments. No one in the audience. Any online? Raise your hand. Seeing none, we're going to move on to Board of Selectmen financials through. I have March 2025. That was we actually had in our last email from Bob through April 2025. So I'm sorry for the Scrivener's error. Motion to change the agenda to review Board of financials through April 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So obviously we're through April, we're 2 months out of the end of the year, so we should be close to 100%. I think we can forego the A's, which is the, I wouldn't call it profit, we call it the revenue. Any of the crazy low numbers are like really small dollar amounts from what I've seen so far. We do have some overages, but they look like they probably could be absorbed into other categories within sublines. I see like animal control salaries at 73%. I don't know if there was discrepancy there, but we don't have anybody from the Board of Selectmen here to really talk to these issues. If anyone has, if we do have questions, we can certainly. Are you taking minutes, Carl? Okay, thank you. Again, animal control expenses are 0 for the budget of 10,000. Might be something to mention to Bob. Yeah, we're just going to table questions for the Board of Selectmen based upon our review. So animal control is one. That's a public Works Department, the Town Aid, Roads, Town Aid and Roads, which is line B2701.
On animal control,
Yeah,
it looks like the budget is just one number. Look it up. So there's a couple $1,000 more.
oh, and the total budget? Okay.
And it looks to me like that one.
Wait, it was just it was a salary number that threw me, Lou. B2608.
Yeah, I think they had to pay the vet when they have the animal, no, like either spay or neuter, or when they have them over in Stonington when they catch. They had to, yeah, something like, I don't know. Or that,
Well, those are, what I'm saying, that was the intercontrol expenses. What I was concerned about is B2608, which is the page 4 at the bottom. The salary this far in the year is only 73%. It's 8,000 below budget. I don't know if that's the,
or they just haven't paid that tranche of money out.
I mean,
I don't know if that's a weekly or a monthly payment.
yeah. I think through April, it's gotta be more like 80%, 85%.
The one thing I did notice,
Did you guys see what I was talking about though, as far
yeah,
as
I saw it.
the town aid roads? We're at 49.3%. I don't know if that's just means that
I think-
with the summertime, there's a lot
Mhm.
more done in May and June.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, 2701.
yeah, it's because the blacktop plants open up. So
That's probably what it is. Yeah, 2701. We're at less than 50% as of the end of April. So maybe they're waiting for the warmer weather.
yeah.
This is through April, right? So that's rating.
Yeah,
Rate.
I'm just saying it's something to mention to them when maybe in our July meeting.
Yeah, I think it's because they just don't have the material to do a
I
lot of
I would
road.
think so, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, but you won't usually do that until you can get the blacktop to go put it back over. Yeah. The one thing I saw was diesel fuel. I can't remember where I saw it in here. I'm trying to look at it on a small screen here.
That's over budget,
Yeah, it's over. It's-
2707.
Yeah, diesel and gas. It's over already.
Well, that's just budget through April.
Yeah,
So,
budget through, it's budgeted through April and it's
Yeah.
already over.
Mhm.
Basically, I'm gonna use around number 10%. So I don't know if it's because we bought at a high and or we have additional equipment we're paying for gas. $2701.
No, it's 27.07.
07, that's right. Diesel and gas. We're at 71,466. We budgeted 65,000. Yeah, got some with a full tank of gas, right? Yeah. Yeah. It might not have. Yeah, but they budgeted 65,000 for the year, and if we're already over, It's either,
You credit that.
yeah,
That would put it back down.
but I think they pre-buy that.
Nicole's on line right now. Nicole, we're going over the budget through April. I mean, the profit, the revenue loss.
Yep.
So, I mean, overall, no issues. We just saw a couple of things like
Snow removal over too. So we knew that was gonna happen.
Carl, animal control,
Animal control salary with
which was B608, 2608. Looks low for end of April. You think these things should be roughly around 83% if they're just paid on a regular basis versus at a particular time. And if you guys really haven't gone over this, Nicole, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. We're just, now I just saw that you're on, and we're just kind of looking at things like that. And if you want to just, you can take these back. And maybe they're going to be different at the end of the fiscal year. But animal control salary is low. That's 2608.
So I think Kasha was, is Suzanne there or no? Does
No,
she
she's
come?
on vacation.
Okay. So Kasha had some sick time. I'm wondering, she had some health concerns and may not have been working her full or any kind of over hours. So I'm wondering if that had something to do with it.
Okay. Well, we're just noting them, we can, the next time we look at the profit and loss, we can see if there's still an issue, or questions. And we had, 2701, which is town aid roads, is less than 50% as of the end of April. And we're thinking that it's probably because you were waiting for better weather to spend that money on asphalt projects and whatnot. Do you have
Yeah,
any?
I can't speak to that.
Okay, no problem. And 2707 diesel and gas, we're over as of April. Just wondering if that's going to keep continuing on, and do we need to, how did we do on the budget for this year? The new budget for that category, given the fact we're over budget.
Yeah, I'm jotting some of these things down so we can
Yeah,
discuss.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, we're kind of doing the same.
Yep.
what are contractual services, B2726? It's at 200.
Which number?
I gotta make sure I got it again.
Contractual services. 226%
Over.
of budget.
What number is that?
27.26.
Back 26.
I don't see a 27.26.
On 27, tax 25. Is on page,
Contractual service.
yep, page 6.
Oh, okay, yep, I see it. No, it's over, that's a different one, Lou. It's on page
Budget
6 at the top.
11.5, we're at 25,991. So we're 14,491 over budget. You know, it's,
Is your mic on?
hey, no. I'm talking to him. Mike's on now. We're all live.
So, as I'm looking at this, they're under budget, $128,000
When it all shakes out.
when it all shakes out.
Yeah.
So, which is about what, three?
It'll all
I-
balance,
to me,
it'll all
it's like,
balance out,
okay,
yeah.
You're always gonna get things that move around a little bit, but
Yeah,
ultimately, 128,000 under budget in April, and if we maintain with that, then it's still good. Nothing- What, yeah, way off. You need a motion to accept this report, or do we do that?
no, no, I wanted to make sure that we looked at it and, know that we're getting regular reports, which is what we want. And, if we have questions, we can certainly pose them to Bob and Susan next time they're here. But I wanted to make sure, we were going to look at it last time we were here, we had the technical difficulties. And so we tabled that. And I really didn't tell Bob, hey, I want you here to go over these, so that's on me too.
It's trending favorable, but not obscenely favorable.
Correct.
It's 6 days. If you levelize it, our monthly burn for the town is about 600,000 a month, 128,000 to the good. Let it ride.
Yep, yeah. All right, let's move on. Steep grant discussion. I know the Board of Selectmen, was there a discussion on that? Did anyone happen to catch that?
Off the top of my head, it's, there's three things, the roof on this building. I'm sorry. Over there, so. The mini split or HVAC system that's going into the administrative office on the end of this building. And then a discussion about the irrigation system for the fields. Oh, okay. So.
Well, right, this is from, yeah.
What I get is that you're gonna rebid for the roof.
Yeah.
The money for the air conditioning is about what they thought as far as the estimate. And then the big question is, what are they gonna do about the irrigation system?
From what I understand, they're working through some alternatives. So if it's as simple as us signing off and saying we have the necessary matching funds to get the grants, I'm fine with that. But I don't think we should authorize or endorse moving ahead on any project in earnest until we've done enough upfront engineering and bid analysis to make sure we could do this. Because we're, earmarking funds for projects that we don't even know are going to go forward. And they got 4 years to deliver them. And what that does is it's sort of, we have to keep this side sheet of this money spoken for, this money spoken for, and we don't know if that's actually going to come to fruition or not. So how do we deal with that?
It's just,
That's what we had the meeting last week, and one of my points was that we're basing our undesignated fund policy movements,
True ups.
true ups,
Yeah.
and budget, shortfalls on money coming back from projects that are finished that aren't getting finished,
That aren't even getting started.
that aren't even getting started.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm very wary of doing, we did it last year with the shortfall, and we never needed it. And thankfully, we got extra money, we got extra revenue from the state for this next fiscal year.
Right.
So that 128 that we earmarked is more likely, 99.9% never gonna have to come out of undesignated. But we're still budgeting in a hole.
Right.
And, I'm hoping that with the reval and stuff like that, we can get rid of maybe those holes and stuff like that. But I'm very reticent. Obviously, if we're going to earmark money for steep projects that are going to benefit the town, I don't have a problem with that, just like you said. But that blows our whole, discussion for the summer of using overages, because we don't have any overages when we're designating this money for these projects.
What got me was when the latest 3 grants were approved, and Bob sent a note to you and the Board of Finance saying, hey, keep in mind that these grants carrying a matching fund of X, so before you drew up anything, make sure we had that. And I was like, wait a minute, we don't even know if these projects can be delivered for what they were estimated for, because our track record on being able to deliver projects that we put in for grants is pretty freaking low.
yeah, because I think we overall have I don't know if it's a scoping problem or a budgeting problem or an internal engineering problem, because it seems like it's an ongoing thing. Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, because, you and I play on the same engineering playing field. When we develop these ideas and we start going into preliminaries and we like, hey, it's going to cost this much preliminary, 30%, 40% swag on it. It seems like once we get to the point where we're getting into the finance portion, they actually goes out for quotes, goes way over. Perfect example, irrigation project. If I had to do a risk analysis of anything, mini splits, put them on my house, not that big of a risk.
Yeah.
They're pretty straightforward. Roof, it's just a matter of finding the right guy to do the job for the right materials at the right time of year.
Right. Because, and the material, and the other piece of it, and this plays in Lou in your background, it's also a cash flow thing.
Correct.
When these projects go in, they really should lay out that if this gets approved, it's going to get approved here. You, Board of Finance, are going to have to be able to tell the state we have the money to cover this. We won't actually need the money until this, and you'll see it back to you. Why?
X later. Yeah.
But we actually have to get that progressive and start mapping this stuff out, because if we're still holding a fistful of IOUs for projects that aren't rolling.
Well, and then the other part is that with the irrigation thing.
Yep.
Based on the conversations that we had with Tri-Board, it's really a mystery to me why we're moving forward.
They're not moving forward.
They're not moving
They
forward.
basically, it's tabled.
Well, what do we do in a situation where we have in our projections a very expensive project, like the irrigation, and then somebody comes back and says, wait a minute, we can do something that will work for a fraction of the cost.
Which they did last night. Or
So-
the other night.
Well, the thing is that we don't have to do the project. We have a grant that says, if you do the project, the state will pick up 80% of it.
Right, exactly. And that's built into our numbers that we take a look at, right?
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden somebody says, we're not going to do that $300,000 project, we can remedy this issue at least in the interim, the 25,000. What does that do to our
So
You,
undesignated?
well, you basically, because all we're doing is saying it's kind of like insurance, where if I have an insurance claim in workers' comp, the actuaries have to put so much money in reserve.
Mhm. Yep.
And it goes out here. All right, and you work off that money, working the claim or whatever. If the money's never used, it's all it is earmarked. It doesn't mean that the money is gone. It's just that
Just
it's
encumbered.
earmarked. So our undesignated fund has all that money in it. It's not accessible to be used for debt reduction or tax relief.
Well,
So,
well, it
so
is.
what you do is you unencumber
Mhm.
that money that we voted to encumber.
Right.
And then you do and then we then vote to do the thing for 25 on a town vote because it's over 20 grand.
So perfect example from like last night when was it last night?
Monday night.
Monday night. I'm getting my nights messed up. So Monday night, the Board of Ed had their discussion about the irrigation system, and the number is big. It is way over budget. It is like $100,000 to start. Is that correct,
198.
John? Yeah, so it's already over, and then they're talking about issues with the well, and then they've gone from, well, start here to, yep, it's good, to now they're kind of back to, they don't know what the condition of the well is, and if they have to drill a new well and all those other things. They went from a project to, yep, we know exactly what it's got to be, to a lot of uncertainty on that project, where if they do go forward in which they talked about, they have 4 years to do it. There was a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of people on that board did not seem like they wanted to go off and just dump or $200,000 of the undesignated fund of their board to do that project.
Because you're only allotted that money.
Mhm.
If there's overages, it's all on you. It's not an 80% match anymore. It's on you.
Yeah. And it seemed like they only got one bidder on it, and it was expensive, and they're having issues with the well. So it seemed like they voted on going with a hose reel / water cannon remedy for it for the time being, to get the fields in shape, as long as the pumps can supply the head on it.
But does that meet, does the grant cover that?
No, they're taking that out of their undesignated fund to go buy that. They're
Right.
buying that separate.
No, it doesn't.
The project is the project. They're buying this separate outside of the project.
And I think they were gonna try and check and see if they could redo what the wording on the grant was.
Yeah, they're gonna try to go back, but they said that because they have 4 years. Now, us as a board, we have to realize, now we have one of the largest amounts of money being tied up
So from my side, I also
in,
see,
in that steep grant.
But so that's what I was getting at before. So if there was a remedy to the issue, which is substantially less money, why would we do the steep grant? Anyway, won't we just end that
Well,
conversation?
I think they really want to have the irrigation. However, the temporary remedy that they have is very labor intensive. Growing up around turf farms and everything, it's physically moving the reel and the water cannon around the fields
Okay.
to water them. It's not as simple as go hit it and it's on a timer and it goes off and
Yeah,
waters
but
the
it also,
fields.
I'm gonna
but it
throw-
also doesn't count tying into city water and therefore.
They
taking
talked about
OpEx.
that, and there was like a little bit of dancing around it and everything. It doesn't sound like that's
so Lou,
All right.
that option they were talking about is to get them so they have the grass and green this year.
Right.
If for some reason they have another 2 years to try and figure out if it'll work or not work as far as with the grant. They're tying us up for 2 years. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the project they were going to take care of right now was to remedy, to get the grass up to normal so they could use it for this year. Ahead of it.
Yeah.
And if that system works, they may just go to that system with another unit, from what I understand,
And make that,
and dump the whole thing.
okay.
So-
Now, if I could just, I don't know where this plays into the conversation, but this whole irrigation thing on those fields. A nice attempt to try to resolve a problem that we have over there. but it doesn't address the underlying issue that those fields get overused.
Mhm.
We
They-
can't do some
100%.
things. at
They
those
also mentioned
fields.
that.
They're gonna- they're-
They mentioned that during the meeting. They're gonna
Right,
try and trim off how much use is on the fields.
Right, so what they're gonna have to do, instead of utilizing them as much as they maybe would like, they've got to cut it back. And there's also, as I understand it, I'm not, this is just what I've picked up, that we can't treat that turf as we should, because the elementary school kids utilize the fields. So the turf there will never be a good, solid quality turf, because they can't treat it with pesticides and herbicides.
Alan, can you speak to that at all? I see that you're on.
Alan's on.
You may have to let him in, though.
Yeah.
No, he, no, he
I
got it.
can hear you. I have to agree with everything you guys have said. I don't want to talk for the Board of Ed, but I have to agree with everything you guys have said with all of those comments. I think that the underground sprinkler is on hold for right now. I actually just ordered the real sprinkler. I believe that's coming out of some fund they have to try it and make sure everything is going to work.
Can you, the last question that Lou was talking about was whether or not you could use the same, the proper fertilizer that most professionals would use on the turf fields, because the elementary kids go out and use those things, and so you're not allowed to do that. Do you know anything about that?
The fertilizer portion, I do not. I know they did talk about the use, and that's going to be another conversation that they have.
As long
Not
as they use,
fertilizer, pesticides.
I
Or
think-
pesticides?
I think we have to use like an organic or
And
something.
that's, I think the state initiated that about 5 years ago. So here's, I'm gonna throw this out, I'm just gonna, don't get knocked over again. When I take a look at this field, the old guy can say, I've been around for a long time. That field, that setup hasn't changed in 50 years. It looks pretty much the same way as when I was in high school and came up here to visit. That facility, those fields looked exactly like they did 50 years ago.
I came from Voluntown and they looked awesome when I came here. I'm just telling you.
Well, but here's the deal. But here's the idea though, Mike. You need to make investments. And as I look at that facility, it strikes me that that's something that the town hasn't made any investment in generations. And when you talk about utilization of a field and how you can't use it as much as you need to, it starts to beg the question whether or not we should do a study as to what we should do over there. Because it's the town's property. These are organizations that are going to be using that field besides the schools. And, you know, it could be a very big item. It is a very big item. But from what I've seen from other communities, going to an artificial turf facility might be exactly what you need to do.
I agree with you when you say it's the town's property,
Mm-hmm.
but the use of it as a recreational field is the tenant's responsibility. They're the ones using it. The town.
Right, okay.
So
Yeah.
this is a tenant improvement in the real estate world. And if the school wants to undergo a study as to what needs to be done with those fields and come to the town with a plan, I'm all for it. But I don't think the town should take on a plan to do what to do with the ball fields for the school. That's not the town's responsibility. The town is the landlord.
I don't
Well-
disagree with that, Gary. I
Well,
mean,
it-
'cause you're talking about a turf field like Griswold has.
Yeah.
And, you know, NFA now has, New London, everyone has them. And I know from my daughter's playing lacrosse, you know, if people come to play our field, it's much more difficult, you know, just to scoop the ball off our turf.
It builds character.
And I don't mind that as long as, you know, if it was thicker and you could mow it down to an inch and a half and,
but
but,
the-
yeah, I mean, I don't mind, but to Gary's point, it would be a school
Led initiative.
led initiative and,
I don't-
but I'm all for it. Let's just, I think we just I want to come to a consensus on
Yep.
on basically this undesignated fund thing. We have a healthy undesignated fund balance. We're already talking about, using it to either pay debt or whatever, it looks like. But if you have these opportunities where the state's going to come in and pay 80% of projects that are really good for the town, that's a really good use of the undesignated fund. It doesn't say we're automatically spending it willy-nilly.
Yep.
They have to have the engineering, like you said, but to say, all right, we believe that it's, our preliminaries say it's going to cost 200 grand, and the state says we're going to fund that at 80%. I don't have a problem earmarking that money for the
I'm fine
undesignated fund.
with us saying the town has the money to do that, because whether we go down to our maximum threshold or not, what I need in my mind, if I was trying to manage the checkbook for this, is I need the people that are going to allocate the budget, deliver the projects, to come to us and say, this is how much we need. This is when we need the commitment. This is when you're going to actually see the spend. And this is when you're going to see the reimbursement.
I don't think the state allows that to happen.
No. Bob and the school should be able to tell you, we're delivering this project and this is what it looks like. Because we need to be able to see what's moving in and what's moving out. Because to just say, okay, I'm going to use just a number. We got 400,000 allocated to this project. We can't do anything with that. We're going to hold the taxpayers' money until this project goes forward or not. Isn't really genuine to the taxpayer. It should be, we're going to need this, and when we need to spend it is in 2028. And we know that the undesignated fund is going to continue to rise, so we really shouldn't use this as a bogey at this moment in time, because money will re-enter that account between now and then. That's where I'm going. For us to just keep sitting on stuff saying, we've got all these projects that we're going to have to pay out if they go forward, isn't really realistic.
Well,
Good.
and it might be that maybe we make a distinction between projects that are committed to
Shovel ready.
trouble for the next 12 to 18 months.
Right.
Say,
Short window.
a short window and say, look, we know these are going to happen because we've signed contracts, things are underway. These other are such a contingency, and things could change. Like all of a sudden, we're not going to do a real in-depth irrigation, and then just do the other kind. And that changes everything.
I can,
Or we do it for the close at hand projects, exactly what a PERT chart kind of thing.
And I don't think the state needs to know one thing from us. Do we have the matching funds? And the answer is a yes or no. And we know we can do it.
Mhm.
What we need as a board is, when are these going to actually hit us?
I would love that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also,
And when last year, when I said, hey, we got 100, we're going to take 196.
Yep.
96 of which is to fill the hole, and we took whatever to lower the mill rate, because we expected money to come back from projects. When those projects didn't happen last year, that didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, you prune up a little bit.
I did. And so to your point, I get it, but I also don't want to say let's miss out on opportunities.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we've got
80% being paid on good projects.
we've got the taxpayers' money, and if we're not going to allocate it for what it's intended for, we should give it back to them. And by the time that hits, that unallocated fund will reload itself. It's built consistently. But we need to be able to say, this is how it maps out and when it's going to hit us. And then we sort of do the wet finger in the air. What do we feel comfortable with?
go ahead, Carl.
so
Your
I
turn.
think part of that, what you're missing is, what do you call it? The contingency of it going up or down. Everybody comes in and says this pen cost $1. I wait for the funds come in 3 days, 4 days, a year later, this pen now costs $2. Nobody left room for that on some of the projects.
Mhm.
And that's what I was talking about earlier.
Right.
Project
So,
escalation, and Alan and I
Right,
have
and-
had long discussions about it.
and a lot of them don't have any
Speak hours.
actual paper, or what do you call it?
Well, that's a
Architectural stuff.
grant writing problem.
It is, it's a big.
So I think that's,
Yeah.
I think that's honestly what we're getting down to, is like, if this project that we're allocating funds for and expecting them to come back and making fiscal decisions based on them coming back, they better damn well have enough money in that grant to get a project done with escalation.
So the only other thing with that is, some of these projects, let's use the sprinkler system, They came in with an estimate to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't come ask for some money so we could have them do a full-fledged program, give us the whole
Which-
thing, how much it's actually physically gonna cost.
I think they had somebody go out there. I think they paid somebody really good money to go write this whole thing. However, when they actually had people bid on it, it came in way high.
Yeah, it shouldn't have though, if you had the right person doing it.
Well, that's, if you go out and hire somebody, you think that you are actually hiring the best person to go out there and go do that job. Unfortunately, but here's the thing, like with that project right there, there is a lot of unknowns. I look at a constructability, but the roof, constructible. It's all material and some labor. Same thing with the HVAC for the central office. It's material, it's straightforward. That is a science project because every little piece of that job has to go just right. And then you're relying on Mother Nature to make sure there's water in that hole.
Mhm.
And guess what? Yes, in May, there was plenty of water in the hole when they looked at the water in there. Well, is there going to be plenty of water when you actually have to have water in that hole? I don't know if they're gonna.
And using again the irrigation system, I agree, taking advantage of state funding is great. But what about when the project is such that it's a bad investment just for our 20%?
Yeah.
And and Bob talked about that. He's like, we're not gonna just go out and get grants just to for getting grants if the project doesn't make sense in the first place. If it would, what, electric vehicles or something like that, that was that whole thing. And-
The semi-electric vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, no, that's a very good point. I mean, we only want to be tying up money with grants for the projects that we actually want. The last piece that we still have to talk about is when the state decides to pay us. I mean, last year we got a grant that the project finished in 2021 or something like that, and we got paid last year. $396,000, I think it was. What was it? It's in here, 395 revenue from a
But-
22 grant.
But that's on us when we map it out to say,
Yeah.
this is when the project will be done. Throw a couple of years on it, this is when we can see we're gonna be.
The problem with that,
Right.
but the problem with
I
that,
think it's the projection on the grants themselves. They need to be a little bit more, liberal with their ask.
they go and we approve that irrigation project just as it is and everything. They go off and do their thing. I think it's a very real possibility. We don't see that money for like 4 or 5 years. Just don't. And that's a healthy number to be encumbered for that long. That is a high, I would say, out of a lot of the projects in this town, even Bob's little circle, table thing going on. That is the highest risk project right there because there's so many unknowns and the number is very, very high. With a potential solution, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, that they could go water the fields for a lot cheaper.
They gotta add a little more labor to their thing.
They gotta add more labor. I understand that. But Alan,
I-
would they be
I
able?
don't think it's only the ball field. I mean, I'm
No.
pretty certain
No, I
nobody,
think they want to do all of
nobody
it.
did any characterization on that roof. So they peel that roof. They're opening Pandora's box.
Of course they are.
But you can kind of corral that by, okay, worst case scenario, they peel the roof back. It's either gonna be something you can go over, or you're gonna have to replace a whole bunch of infrastructure. But if you go into that deal, you understand that might happen. So you can price that in, that can give you
No,
your
no,
range.
They didn't price it.
I'm
No, they
saying,
didn't
I'm
price it
saying,
That's the
in
problem.
they don't
didn't
include
price
us in the pricing.
All
Then
right,
we need to
Yeah,
review
all right.
the
Okay.
and we're all
Yeah.
singing the same song,
Yeah,
so.
right.
Unfortunately, we're all singing the same song, but we're not a part of the decision-making
Yeah.
process to be making those decisions on that.
Yeah.
We're just holding the money bucket.
Well, I think, as these steep grants keep coming in and other grants that, we're trying to get, it's a slight learning curve for them and us. And I mean, it's not a bad place to be in to say, all right, we have the money to be able to, put aside and we have these grants that are being granted.
But,
So,
but here's the caveat. We fund these projects and we think they're good projects. If we don't do our due diligence, we're only a couple of projects from losing a good chunk of our undesignated fund, because once we start them, we have to finish them or we lose a lot of money on them. So,
I don't-
you
yeah,
know,
right.
that's,
I think if you're seeing issues, we could say we don't necessarily want those projects to go forward.
If that's the case, it's gotta go back to the town. So it wouldn't be our decision. Once it breaks the threshold, it's gotta go back to the town.
What Dan's saying, if it's
We're
already
already in.
started,
We're already
yeah,
in.
it's already in it.
Well,
You're already buried
but
into it.
we still can't assume that the town would vote to go forward.
As like you and I and the rest of us and everything, we're smart guys and gals and everything. You know, if we notice that this is a very high risk project and we know gut feeling that something bad's going to happen, or this is not going to go well, and or the contingency is not big enough or whatever,
Right.
and then they start the project and like you said, they peel back the layers and everything, and they like, oh no, we have a big problem, and then they find more stuff and everything, and then they have to go back to the town and go to the town. You know,
Yeah,
we open our liability up quite a bit.
yes.
You could take a $300,000 project and turn it into $1 million project very, very easily.
And you're saying that we is not just the Board of Finance,
It's
it's we as the
a
town.
we as the collective whole.
Mm.
and at that point, the only amount of money you get is what you originally asked
Yeah,
for.
originally what you got as a reimbursement.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like I
So
said, yeah, you're on the hook for the rest.
you're on the hook for the rest. So
All right, we're moving the suspense list.
We're in suspense.
is this the official suspense list?
It is.
So we got to vote on that.
Yes, we do. And I've already looked at it. This is the list for 2023. We're always a couple years behind because obviously they're still trying to collect on these years after they're due. So we have the money going that's been missing since 2019 through 2023. $41,583.27.
And this is a complete write-off, correct?
Correct.
We still collect if it's a lien on a property down the road. It's just that we suspend.
We're taking,
collection.
yeah, they're taking off the rolls.
It's taken off the overall amount of the grand list.
Correct.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
Unless I'm missing it, I don't see any business. Would that be a separate list?
I don't think there are, if they're not on here, Lou, then they're not,
just never
they're
happened.
just not in.
This Circle Recovery LLC.
Yeah, I saw one
Yeah.
landscaping company too.
Okay.
I think if I remember right, about 1 or 2 years ago, there was a bunch of business suspenses that came through. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, there's personal, there's vehicles, personal property.
I think it's every 5 years or something.
You need a motion.
Yes.
Make a motion to accept the
The 2023 suspension.
suspense list.
Okay, second by Gary. Got that? Lou moves it. Carl.
Carl?
Yeah, I'm good.
Lou voted.
Lou
I
moved.
second.
Motion.
I'm trying to read. You mean the secretary needs to write it down?
Yes.
We voted on some stuff.
Yeah. Voted on stuff.
Motion
Stuff was talked about.
accept.
Gary was angry.
Any further discussion?
Suspense.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
What's the number?
5-zip. And there was a 5-zip was on number 4 when we just made it a change to the agenda. I moved and Dan seconded.
I had that down. What was that number?
That was 5-zip. All right, auditor RFP discussion. We had an email from Sue in that regard. That we still haven't they're opening bids on Friday. And to date, this is as of today at 11 a.m. We've not received any bids.
Which is,
We'll just table that to next time.
Well, this is our discussion. We're just
No, we had
discussing
to
it.
go figure what we're gonna do.
Oh,
So who did we go to? And so I have questions for Suzanne. Who did we go to? And obviously it included our current auditor. And if we got no response, who's reached out and said, are you planning to bid?
She has.
yeah,
Okay.
she went out to like the state bid website.
She's gone everywhere.
She went everywhere that she could go.
Surrounding towns,
And we're getting no bids?
no bids.
So the next thing I would have, if I was running a bid event and this occurred, I'd call up our current auditor and say, why'd you no bid us?
Well, there's also some other,
And no, there might be something wrong with our RFP that we're not aware of, that she.
oh, that
They-
part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It could
yeah.
be.
No,
The other thing is that if we don't get any bids, I'm not sure about this, but I don't think our current auditors can just walk away from us. If there's a business practice of, can't abandon.
They got a fiduciary
I'm not
duty.
sure I want an
Yeah.
auditor that's a hostile witness.
Well, yeah, it's better than having none at all.
it's like having the IRS in your back pocket.
Woo!
I don't know if that, I
Was-
think it's something we should look at. If we don't get any other.
didn't we mention last time that we're gonna try and reach out to them and see if they'd carry us for 1 year while we were in this
I
process?
mean, we have till Friday.
Okay.
And
It's 2
I mean,
days
our
ago.
next meeting is not till the 16th of July.
Yep.
So we have to have a plan by then, but I mean, Suzanne's gonna email and say whether or not we got any bids. You know,
I think at the 11th hour, it's going to be difficult to see somebody slip right in and put in a bid last minute.
No, they're
That
not
would
gonna
be a
come.
very,
Gary's question though, is there something about our RFP that puts,
I don't think so. It's the same RFP we did last time.
I would agree. I mean, it wouldn't appear on the face to be something, but if nobody bids, I think that's a legitimate question to go back to ask our current auditor. and
What's
say,
funny is
what did we do?
looked at our meetings minutes for last year, because I was looking for the suspense list and whether or not we had to vote on it, which we did, obviously. And there was some discussion about when the auditor's bill came in, it was higher and this, that, and the other thing. We were like, oh, we gotta change, we gotta review our RFP next year because we gotta make sure we don't get like taken advantage of. And here we are with our,
Here we are.
we're ready to go with our hat in our hands. Here's what I'll suggest. If Suzanne's gonna call me or email me on Friday to tell me whether or not we got anybody, or if we did. If they didn't, then I will next week, because it is us. We contract with the auditors. I'll call King and King myself.
Yep.
Sound good?
yeah.
Sounds like
And I'll
a.
report I'll report to you guys
I think that's
on the 16th.
I would say that by the middle of next month, we have to have somebody
Yeah,
on the hook.
no response from the market is a big red
Yeah,
flag. Either
that's a-
something's wrong with your communication method or something's wrong with your RFP.
Yeah,
But
there's
you
some
need to find- yeah,
there's some
something's going on.
Yeah,
Or
there's-
something's wrong with state of Connecticut, nobody wants to do it.
Well,
No. They looked at the state of Connecticut list. They didn't go to the state of, yeah. It's, you mean work within the state?
Right, maybe
No,
they
these
don't want to work.
businesses are within the state.
Well, maybe they don't want to take any more on.
It just, yeah.
I think other, this is hypothetical, talking completely out, but I think other people got dropped. Sounds like it's a work load thing, because like everywhere else,
Nobody
Yeah,
has
I
any
could
help.
tell you right now, like,
it's difficult to find people.
there are no young lawyers in Eastern Connecticut coming up.
Can I get an
The
amen?
nightlife is not good.
Sorry.
The nightlife is not good, Mike.
Well, let me add to Mike's concern. There's the average age of plumbers in Connecticut is
56.
62 years old or something like that.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
you know.
and what I was saying, the
we
guy
need
that, a
both-
guy that,
Same
we need
thing with the
lawyers and
electricians.
plumbers.
yeah, a guy that's running the law firm is like, I wish I could give, who am I gonna turn my book of business over to?
Yep.
Who's coming up that's gonna take this on? And doctors are the same thing. They don't have someone that's gonna take over their staff. It's
I don't
weird.
know a single
Terrible.
industry that is busting at the seams with,
Yeah.
with their
Yeah.
talent pool.
Well,
Their
I
feeder
mean, I think
program.
we're feeling that with this auditor too. All right, well, I'll call King and King if we don't have any, and I'll call him next week and I'll report back to you guys. We don't have any minutes to review. Public comments? Anyone inside this
Alan,
room? Going once? Next meeting is July 16th, and I motion to adjourn from Dan. Second from Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, Carl.